Good evening and welcome to your City Council meeting. Today is Tuesday, August 15, 2017, and it is 7 p.m. Regular meetings are held on the first and third Tuesday of each month at 7 p.m. in the council chambers at City Hall. Before we begin our City Council meeting, I would like to have our City Clerk, Madam Gomez, make an announcement, please.
Thank you, Mayor. Last night, I accepted the resignation of Jerry Susowitz from his position as mayor, and Mayor Pro Tem Minigar, yourself, graciously accepted the appointment as mayor. At this time, I would like to administer the oath of office to you as mayor. You want to meet me on the floor?
Thank you. Call on my wife, Julie Minigar, to join me for the oath of office, please.
Mayor Minigar, have you raise your right hand. I will say I, you state your name, and then I'll administer the oath of office. When we're finished, you say I do. I
Fred Minigar,
do solemnly affirm that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California against all enemies, foreign and domestic, that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California, that I take this obligation freely without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion, and that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties upon which I'm about to enter.
I do. Thank you very much.
Congratulations.
All right. Madam City Clerk Gomez, can you call roll, please?
Yes, Mayor, I was going to take a public comment card to you.
Oh, I apologize for that.
That's okay. Let me call a roll, and that way we can move forward. Thank you. I apologize. Councilmember Davies.
Here.
Councilmember Genoway.
Present.
Councilmember Jennings.
Here.
And Councilmember Slusowitz.
Here.
And Mayor Minigar.
Present.
Thank you. We have a quorum.
Very good. At this time, I would like to have Rabbi Keva Wider of Temple Beth El of South Orange County come forward for the invocation. And then we will have my favorite Boy Scout Troop 772 come forward to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
The first, congratulations, Mayor, on your opportunity to serve the community in your new position. It's a privilege and honor to be able to be here and help frame this meeting. One could say that the goal of our Jewish tradition is to bring spirit into matter, sacred into the secular, or really our deepest values into the actions and everything that we do. And one word that really frames that in our tradition is the word mitzvah, as in a bar mitzvah, rite of passage for a young man or woman. And a mitzvah could be translated as anything that we do that connects us to something greater. And it's from this place, this perspective, that I want to frame that this is not just doing the work of the city here, but that this is sacred work. And I will, define sacred as doing work with an awareness that there is a greater reality than just our own particular perspective, that we are serving a whole, and that our actions and the choices that we make have ripples outside. Having this be sacred work also is bringing the awareness that there's a variety of different perspectives that can all be equally valid, and that sometimes it's a difficult task to balance and try to really listen deeply to the different voices that are coming to the table and find constructive, positive solutions. And also what makes it sacred work is that our primary guiding force is a respect for life is that really the service to the community comes first and foremost from an honoring of life. So I'd like to share with you a very short blessing, which is something that we do at Temple Bethel of South Orange County when we open up any board meeting or any meeting that's really about the work of the community. And the blessing goes like this. We say this every time. Blessed are you, source of life, who implants within us the desire to deepen our connection with you through our relationships with each other. Help us to recognize each other's love for our community and to respond to each other in a way that invites what is best in us. Inspire us to engage in creating a sacred community that includes and transcends our individual needs and provides blessing for future generations. Amen.
Thank you. Group 772.
Troop, attention. Audience, attention. Troop 772, color guard, advance. Will the audience please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? Scout salute. Those non-uniform, please place your right hand over your heart. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. 2. Audience, at ease.
Please don't go anywhere. Troop 772 is my favorite troop because my son, Justin, was a part of this dynamic troop. All the future leaders of this great city, Laguna Niguel, happen to be, most of them coming from Troop 772. My wife and I just came from UC Berkeley, and because my son had his first day at UC Berkeley, we were there for registration. So I'm very proud of what Troop 772 parents and all the sponsors do. At this juncture, I would like to request for all the troop leaders to also join us. And please state your name, just your first name, and which school you go to.
Hi, I'm Tommy, and I go to Niguel Hills Middle School.
Hi, I'm Alan, and I go to Aliso Viejo Middle School.
I'm Catherine.
Hi, I'm Trevor, and I go to Aliso Viejo Middle School.
Hi, I'm Ryan, and I go to La Paz Middle School.
I'm Ryan, and I go to AVMS.
I'm Isa, and I go to Aliso Viejo Middle School.
I'm Aiden, and I go to Aliso Viejo Middle School.
Very good. Thank you very much. I guess at this juncture, we typically have a photo op, and let's have a nice picture taken. I guess since this is the last presentation we have, we can go back to the dais. So there are no presentations this evening, so we will move on to the public communications. Any person wishing to address the city council on any matter, whether or not it appears on this agenda, is required to submit a completed gold-colored request to speak form to city clerk prior to being heard by the city council. Each person will be given 3 minutes to speak. Are there any other requests to speak forms at this juncture?
No, Mayor, there's no other ones.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. The first one is the Honorable Ross Chan and the Honorable Martha McNicholas.
Good evening, and thank you for welcoming us here. I'm Ross Chun, and I am the event co-chair for the American Cancer Society Relay for Life. And Martha and I just wanted to say a few words about this event that's coming up this weekend, starting at 4 p.m. on Saturday. I'd first like to say thank you again. This is, I think, our third year where your city has so graciously co-hosted the event for the citizens in Aliso Viejo and then your citizens here in Laguna Niguel. And we've been so grateful that you have a place for this event at Niguel Hills Middle School. And your staff and your residents and this council has been so welcoming of the event. We've already raised over $22,000, and typically most of the funds for the event are raised in advance. And because of that, we have changed the format somewhat this year, and it's going to take place from 4 p.m. until 10 p.m. On Saturday. And so it's a shorter event, but still a tremendous effort to raise money to fight cancer. And we're looking forward to many of the council members, if not all of them, attending this event along with other dignitaries and community leaders and cancer survivors. We have a dinner at 5:30, and so hopefully if you're able to come and you can attend the dinner at the event, we would be grateful as well. And I think Martha has a few words to say.
I'm the survivor chair this year, and I'm also coordinating the silent auction, so you got to come for the silent auction. And this year is pretty special to me. I am a cancer survivor, 29 years in October of melanoma, so McCain and I have a little bit of in common there, although he's been recently diagnosed with another cancer. I just had another biopsy on Friday, so we're hoping that's nothing, but it's kind of my really close to me. Also, I lost my mother in November of recurring cancer. She was a 54-year survivor and passed away at age 91. So I am relaying this year in her memory, and I'm planning to live till 91 too. So thank you all for coming out. I know we'll get 4 or 5 of you, and I know especially Councilmember Slusowicz is taking his daughter to college, and I know how special that is. Mayor Minigar just did that, so sorry we'll miss you this year, but glad to have everybody else, and I extend an invitation to staff too. Hope you can join us. Thank you.
Martha and Ross, for your information, I'll be attending.
Yes, we know that.
That's
This
terrific.
event.
And this year's theme, it's a Hawaiian theme. So not just in honor of my family heritage, but also because the previous theme was, I think, hot August nights. It just sounded like it was going to be a hot, uncomfortable evening, so instead it's going to be aloha nights, and so it's going to be a Hawaiian theme with Hawaiian music and food.
And luau kind of dinner. So wear your Hawaiian shirt. Don't need to wear a tie. So.
All right,
Okay,
well,
look
thank you
forward
very
to
much.
seeing you there.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
The next speaker, Mr. Stephen Manley.
I'm Stephen Manley at 22882 Andara Road, Laguna Niguel. And I just have a simple comment. The Aliso Canyon trailhead that ends on Pacific Island Drive has been heavily used this summer, which is a good thing. And on the weekends especially, it's been heavily used to the point where there's no parking. Well, there is parking, but people park illegally beyond the boundaries. So I think you should extend it on the southbound end so that people aren't parking illegally. There's generally been 10 to 20 cars overflow. So I think that's something you might want to consider.
Very good. Thank you for your comments. Last but certainly not least, the speaker is going to be talking on item number 6, so I withhold that. Okay, since we don't have any other public communications, the public communications is closed. We will now move on to our consent calendar, items 1 through 11. Before we proceed, I would like to pull items 4 and 5 from the consent calendar for discussion. Are there any other items that need to be pulled for comments and discussions by my colleagues?
Item number 6 for comment.
Number 6, Councilwoman Genoway.
And
Correct, Mr. City Attorney Terry Dixon.
Mr. Mayor, I also wanted to note on item number 10 on the consent calendar has to do with the new parking lot at the senior center. And I didn't run an exact tape on it, but I'm pretty sure that my house may be within 500 feet of that. So on the advice of the city attorney, I'll just recuse myself on number 10.
You've been recused.
I've got comments on 1, 3, 4, 5, and 10.
1, 3, 4, 5, and 10. Councilman Schlusowitz.
Thank you.
Excuse me for a second. I have to apologize. What I said should have concerned item number 5, the interim pay item, not item number 6. So number 5 is the one that should be taken off the consent calendar as it has, and then should be taken separate and apart from the consent calendar. I apologize for the confusion.
Your points are well taken, Mr. City Attorney. Okay, do I have a motion on the remainder of the consent items?
The motion to move the rest. Second.
Any second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Very good. Okay, the first one is Councilman Schlusowitz. Item number 1.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is just a simple comment or maybe a start of a discussion that the council consider later. Interim City Manager Erlinson, in his position as Finance Director, have discussed this a few times. I don't have any questions on any specific items, but if we could look just at like page 1 of the consent calendar, the second item from the bottom as an example, we have LPA Inc. And again, I don't know how much effort it would be, and I'm expecting guidance from the Finance Director or City Manager. We had talked about potentially putting the limit caps on this consent calendar. So for example, if we were at, let's say it was $140,000 is the cap, and let's say this LPA came in at $80,507, then it would say 80,000 of 140, and then that way it would just show. I don't know how much work that is for your department. I know you have somewhat of a limited staff that's doing a lot of work. So just if we could start that discussion, if council is interested.
Yeah, no, actually that's easy to do. As you can see on the warrant register, we're putting down how much of the contract is complete or how much of the contract cap has been expended. We can certainly put the dollar amounts in there and do the dollar amounts and continue to do the percentages. Give the full picture. That's easy to do.
Okay. Yep. Great. Thank you.
Any other comments on item number 1?
With that, I'll move the item.
Any second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The motion is carried unanimously. Item number 3, Councilman Jerry Schlusowitz.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. On page 12 of 13 on this item, these are the minutes from the special meeting of July 24th. I have a question for Madam Clerk. Under where it says a motion is made by Council Member Genoway, seconded by Council Member Davies as follows. Is that accurate and correct? here on the minutes and per the videotape that's recorded in its entirety?
Yes, Mayor, this was the recommendation that was on the staff report, and that's what was approved, in addition to the items requested by Councilmember Davies.
Right. Okay. Motion carried 4-1-0. Okay with
Yes,
me then,
uh-huh.
now. Then I have a question then for Mr. Dixon. Mr. Dixon, can you please read item 3 under this motion? Into the microphone too, please, sir. Sometimes we don't hear you.
The city council authorized and directed the city attorney to report on the status of matters set forth in this report at a special meeting to be held on or before August 7, 2017.
Do you have any discrepancies with the city clerk said, or do you agree as colleagues, we all agree?
Well, that's what it
Okay.
says.
All right, perfect. So then, given the motion, what I have a question for Mr. Dixon is, how did that meeting get canceled?
That meeting was never scheduled.
Well, again, a motion was made by Councilmember Genoway, seconded by Councilmember Davies. Item 3 that you read says the city council authorized and directed, I would assume that means scheduled, but, the city attorney to report on the status of the matters set forth in this report at a special meeting to be held on or before August 7th, 2017. I don't want to fight, but that sounds like it's scheduled right here, and we voted 4-1.
That's not my opinion. I don't believe the meeting was ever scheduled.
Okay. Well, I'm not going to make a motion on it because I think that this is a matter of the Brown Act violation I've been talking about, but I'm done.
Councilman Jerry Sluicer, with any other amplification or clarification on item number 3?
No, I'm done, but I'm not going to make a motion to pass it either.
Okay. Do I have any comments on this item?
No.
By my colleagues? Okay, do I have a motion to approve as stated, as presented?
I'll make a motion.
Any second?
Can I, little discussion? Again, I'm urging this might be a Brown Act violation, but you guys can do what you want. Very good.
Discussion.
Okay, so we're gonna go back, we're gonna undo. Please proceed.
Is that great? Attorney Dixon, I believe that you had given us information in regards to talking to an outside attorney. There was no Brown Act violation here. The meeting was not scheduled. It was not posted, and so there was no violation. Is that correct?
That's my opinion.
Was that also opinion from the outside attorney?
Yes, from the law firm of Burke, Williams, and Sorensen.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman Davies. Any other comments? All right, let's go back. Do I have a motion to approve as stated?
I'll make a motion.
Any second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. The motion is carried
I'm going to abstain on that one because, again,
4-1, one being abstained. All right, proceeding to item number 4. Well, as you know, on item number 4, because I was invited as a U.S. government delegation for a diplomatic trade mission to People's Republic of China, I was absent, and for the record, I wanted to make sure that this item, the minutes of the meeting, would reflect that. That has been the only meeting that I've ever been absent. And prior to meeting, per my personal communications with our city attorney, Terry Dixon, and via emails to all my colleagues, including the city clerk, I had stated that I'm going to be on a diplomatic trade mission, and I would be absent. If there was a dire need for me to be at the meeting, I would have canceled my diplomatic mission within 48 hours. And per the consensus of all my colleagues, including our mayor at the time, everybody agreed that it was okay for me to be absent for that meeting, August the 1st, 2017. just to clarify my position on that. Do I have any other
Yeah.
issues or clarifications or amplifications on item number 4?
I pulled that. I don't know if anyone else did. Me? Thank
Okay,
you.
please.
On page 5 of 13, the fourth, I guess, paragraph, it's a one-liner. Councilmember Jennings called for the question. During that August 1st meeting, there was a discussion about moving agenda item 1. This was at 1:06 into the video. It was Lori Davies said, "We have a special meeting set for August 7th regarding the allegations of the mayor's behavior." And she was talking about moving the special meeting to next week, and she was happy to release the August 7th meeting. So that discussion referenced the minutes as follow. Discussion, what I'd like to do is have the minutes reflect that part about Ms. Davies, what she said. A discussion ensued regarding moving City Council item number 1, the analysis of West Coast Arborist, to a future date where Mayor Pro Tem Minigar is present. So, again, at the 1:06 mark of the meeting, posted online, Councilwoman Davies said, quote, "We have a special meeting set for August 7th dealing with the allegations regarding the mayor's behavior." Councilwoman Davies continued stating, quote, "What I recommend, because this is an important item and I want this done so that we can move on, I recommend that we move that special meeting to next week. Let's use that date so we can put item 1 on there." I believe we need all 5 signatures to sign off on that. I'm happy to release that special meeting and put agenda item 1 on there. So again, I'm requesting the official minutes add that following language so it's records clear and accurate. Ms. Davies basically stated that there's a special meeting scheduled for August 7th. Councilwoman Davies offered to release that meeting date and suggest we put item 1 on that August 7th special meeting. So I want to add that minor change to the official minutes right above where it says Councilmember Jennings called for the question. And if you need that language, I'd be happy to provide it to the clerk afterwards.
It's okay, I have a verbatim
Again,
of
it's
the
all
item.
on the audio.
Yes, I have
The
it.
1 hour and 6 minute section.
Okay, yes, I will add
And with
that.
that, I'll move it unless,
Well, I have a point.
Councilwoman Genoway?
Okay, and City Clerk Gomez, right after that, if you could please add to the minutes that Mayor Slusowitz's comment was that he did not want to have a meeting on August 7th. Thank you.
yeah, I voted 4-1 against, correct.
Any other comments, amplifications, clarifications, amendments?
With that, I'll move the item.
Okay, I have to recuse myself because I was absent during that meeting, so do I have, or I have to abstain? Do I have a?
Yeah, I just want to make sure, will you just make sure that we get the verbiage right that Councilmember Genoway has mentioned?
Yes,
Just to make-
Councilmember, I will do it
Thank you.
tomorrow,
Perfect.
first thing.
Do I have a motion to approve?
Yeah, I moved it.
Any second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. The motion is approved by myself, recusing myself. All right, moving on to item number 6, council, or item number 5. This item has been pulled, Madam City Clerk.
It was pulled, we requested it to be pulled due to the content because it references salaries and it should have been a discussion item originally.
That is correct. To give you some kind of background, our Senator Pat Bates, the founding mayor of this city, had passed legislation in Sacramento some time back that it would require all municipal corporations in the state of California, anytime they would be talking about salaries for top management of any municipal corporation, they have to conduct those discussions in a separate meeting. So because of that, we cannot discuss it at a public hearing at this juncture.
Well, actually, Mayor Minigar, the way this worked, there was a closed session,
Correct, I beg your pardon, correct.
and at that closed session, the city council determined to make an offer to both the interim assistant city manager and the interim city manager of an 18% increase for interim pay. That offer was conveyed by me subsequently to those two individuals, and they accepted the increase. The next step was required to put the increase on an agenda for an open meeting. It's now an open meeting, and to describe what the agreed upon salary is, which again, as I said, is 18%. And then the next step would be the actual adoption of a resolution reflecting those increases. And that resolution is attachment A to the agenda report. So the recommendation would be to approve that resolution.
Very good. Do I have any comments on item number 5?
I had some comments.
Please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. First, as a comment, this is not our money. It's appropriate to have a contract in place ahead of time and not to be done retroactively. This is a pattern that I'm not comfortable with and is one that cannot continue by the staff and my colleagues. Under the memorandum of understanding, I think we have little choice but to increase the pay of Mr. Erlinson and Ms. Bell retroactively. And generally, if someone has taken on additional responsibilities like a new role, they are deserving of the extra pay. What I'd like to include in the resolution is the actual compensation that will be received. Instead of simply saying the additional compensation as interim city manager is set as 18% of current salary, which is $2,487.24 per month, I think the verbiage should change to say the additional compensation as interim city manager is set at 18% of current salary, which is $2,487.24 per month, thereby bringing the interim city manager's compensation to X per month. My recommendation, the reason for that, is to make sure that we are compliant with our own memorandum of understanding. But it also ensures the taxpayers that they are aware of the actual compensation being paid to our key employees. Now also, Mr. Dixon, if I'm correct, this increase is only during the period for which they are serving as the interim role.
Yes, that would be my understanding.
Then I recommend we change the resolution under items 1 and 2, where it says, now therefore be it resolved, to state the additional compensation while serving as interim city manager instead of for serving as interim city manager under items 1 and 2, to reflect that it is a temporary increase while they serve in the expanded role, that it's not a permanent increase. So again, unless you guys have that final number in terms of what that X would be in terms of their salary, if you can do a quick fix right now, I'll make the motion. Otherwise, what I recommend is that we bring that back next meeting until we can have the actual numbers for our taxpayers who we should be most concerned with.
Please.
Great.
While she's researching the numbers, would you have any comments?
I do, and you know,
Please.
we're all on the same page here. The taxpayers come first. And I wanted the public to know that by us actually appointing our staff as interim and a city manager, interim assistant city manager, we were saving more money than actually going outside. Is that correct, Attorney Dixon?
Yes, that's certainly my understanding.
And what kind of savings were we bringing in?
I don't have the numbers with me, possibly.
I think it was about, oh, you have the number?
sorry, doing double duty, listening and calculating at the same time. The savings is a little over $44,000 a month.
So please do keep in mind that, you know what, you do come first, and that was one thing that was a priority as well. Thank you.
Councilwoman Genoway?
Yes, so in addition to the savings to the taxpayers of $44,000 a month, keeping in place employees who have worked with staff and staff is very familiar with, these two employees are still doing their other job as well. So, you know, that is something that they do deserve to be compensated for the extra time that they are putting in, and we appreciate them stepping up.
Any comments, Councilman John Mark Jennings?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just echo the same comments. I've said these to them privately, and I appreciate what you do, and I think that the additional compensation is very adequate for the additional role that you've had to take on. I don't know what that breaks out to per hour, but I'm sure it may not adequately reflect all the time that you're putting in these days. So I thank you for that. And it is a tremendous savings. We did consider the option of going outside or staying in-house with this, and for continuity of government, for taking care of our staff, for familiarity purposes, and given the expertise that you all had. I thought it was a very smart move, and I appreciate it.
The total salary for the interim city manager, including the interim pay, as you realize, is not PERSable, so we do have to keep it separate for our CalPERS reporting. The total salary for the interim city manager is $15,904.24 per month. The total pay for the interim assistant city manager is $15,441.06 per month.
Thank you. I'll move the item.
Very good. Thank you very much. I wanted to echo the same discussions that my colleagues brought up. We do care about transparency and integrity within the establishment, and thank you very much for bringing it to our attention.
Yeah, and again, that first part I hope isn't lost, that we don't ever enter into any kind of, you know, dealings without a contract in place first. It's not our money.
Thank you. Your points are well taken. So the motion was seconded.
I'll second it. Did someone move it?
I did.
Okay, it's all second.
It was seconded by Councilwoman Elaine Genoway. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. The motion is carried unanimously, 5-0. Item number 6, Councilwoman Genoway. We do have a public comment. Would you prefer to go over the item first? Mr. Michael Saul, or Sal, if I butchered your name, please forgive me.
It was Saul, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
Good evening. I rise in opposition to agenda item number 6. I believe that the resolution is premised on a false assumption that Proposition 57 altered in some way the definition of violent or non-violent felonies. It did not. The definition of violent felony has been established by the legislature, and while none of my statements are designed to minimize the severity of any of the crimes at issue in the proposed public comment by the council, ultimately, all that Prop 57 did was make it possible for certain offenders to demonstrate that they were not a threat to the public in seeking early parole. The proposed comment contains no discussion grounded in law or evidence that would suggest that these offenses should not be eligible for public parole, for early parole on the basis of an individualized analysis of the severity of the crime and the person's rehabilitation or repentance, and ultimately the safety of the public. I believe that we can trust the parole system to accomplish that goal without recategorizing crimes that the legislature has not already defined as violent felonies. So, in conclusion, I would respectfully suggest that the matter is best left to the legislature to address that issue, or alternatively to the people if, as the agenda item suggests, the people were in some way misled about the scope or effect of Proposition 57. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your comments. The public comments are closed. Councilwoman Genoway, the floor is yours.
Okay, this item on Proposition 57 is a matter of public safety. When Proposition 57 was passed by the voters, it specified crimes that are considered violent. And in the California Penal Code, there's a specific list of crimes that are considered to be violent crimes. And if they're not on that list, then Prop 57 does not apply. They are not considered to be violent. The governor has realized that there was a flaw when that law was passed, and that's why he has opened a public comment period. So the Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation is seeking comment from all Californians on this issue of public safety. And what we are encouraging residents to do, and what we hope to do as a council also, is to provide public comment that there are certain crimes which we as reasonable people in our community consider to be violent. Human trafficking of a minor, rape of someone who's unconscious. And I looked into this a little further. How can it be if someone's unconscious, it's not considered violent? Well, because if you're unconscious, you're not under threat. So there needs to be, some more definition in Prop 57, and that's why the governor has opened a public comment period. So I urge all of our residents to participate in that and, make their voices heard, because this is an issue of public safety for our community. And and Senator Bates, she is actually leading the effort on this, and today she sent out an email, and you may see some differences in her list versus this list here. And you'll see differences in other lists, because basically there's not an A list and a B list. There's an A list of violent crimes, and then anything that's not on that is not considered a violent felony. So this is something that we want to make the voice of Laguna Niguel heard, and it is an issue of public safety. So I would urge my council members in supporting us in this effort.
Thank you. Any other comments?
Only that I appreciated Councilwoman Genoway bringing this to my attention. I was happy to second this. I do think that there's a flaw in that law. I think every now and then Jerry Brown gets that right, and this time he did, in opening it up for us to comment on it. I strongly encourage the council to chime in on this, and for other community citizens and entities to do the same. I think that it's without question that the list of those included in the proposed letter from the city council are absolutely violent, and the definition of violent crime does need to be amended for that purpose. And in any event, I think Prop 57 was grossly over-inclusive to include that. And so I support the item.
Thank you. Councilwoman Davies? Councilman Jerry Schlusowitz? Oh, please.
Okay, go ahead. Okay. I as well, with Prop 57, I think we all know, if you look back, you had Prop 47 in 2014, and then you had Prop 57. And, this is early release. This is changing felonies to misdemeanors. There's no question that our crime rate has increased over the last 2-3 years. That's a fact. Our police services can attest to that, mainly petty crime. But now with Prop 57, you do have a different type of a person that was a criminal being released. And I think this is public safety. This is something that people need to be aware of, and I think it's something in regards to the survey and the public communication. I think it's something to look into, ask questions, and I think, that's why we're here with this. It is public safety, and we think awareness. Unfortunately, a lot of these props, like 47, AB 101, Prop 57, most people didn't know what it was when it went through, because when you actually explain to them, they're like, you got to be kidding me. And that's what it is, because you never know how it's put there in the ballot and actually how it's advertised. So we're kind of backtracking and trying to help word get out and hopefully make the right changes to this bill, and I definitely support that as well.
Thank you. Councilman Jerry Schlusowitz?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Generally, I'm for these because I'm for public safety and I'm anti-crime. And, I definitely think that some of the laws that have been passed in California are, letting too many people on the streets, which creates a very difficult situation for our law enforcement, who does a great job here in Laguna Niguel. We appreciate all their services. We are such a low crime rate city. The only unfortunate thing is, we had a public comment, and I don't know exactly how this reads, and as I look through this item here, we don't have the Prop 57 contained as an attachment. So without exactly reading it and knowing, it says exactly what we think, even though, some esteemed leaders are behind it, I'm going to just have to abstain on this item.
Even though it's strictly a letter to be sent to Sacramento?
It's a letter that's making a position on an item that, here's what I'm saying, Mr. Mayor, is that we should have had an attachment that had it for those of us who wanted to do their own research. Because as we know, some bills, they're not what they say they are. We just had a public comment that said it. I don't know if it is or it isn't. I'm not going to stop it. I'm just saying I'm going to abstain. And I would actually ask that if we do these in the future, let's put as Exhibit A or B or C or wherever we are on it, just put the item in there so we can read it ourselves and make sure we're making the right decision. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Are you contemplating to amend this, or we should move forward with the vote? Because I totally agree with my colleagues.
We should move forward with the vote because the public comment period closes at the end of this month, and we want to be sure to have the voice of Laguna Niguel in there.
So you're moving the motion? Any
move.
second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The motion is carried 4-1.
Yeah, it's an abstention on my part.
Correct. All right, moving on to item number 10, and Councilman John Mark Jennings recusing himself from item number 10, and the floor is yours, Councilman Jerry Schlussever.
Yeah, for my councilman colleague, I don't think you live anywhere near 500 feet to that place, but, okay.
I'm not sure that I do either, but I didn't get out there with the measuring tape, and I don't know exactly how far it is.
Yeah. Okay, just quickly here, this is just a quick question for Mr. Abasada. This is a simple parking lot design for our senior center. It's great that we're adding parking. We're happy about that. We're happy that we got the property for free, and all that's great. I just see that we took Kimberly Horn, who's the third bidder, at $122,452. There were two bidders lower, $99,955 from IDS, $83 from $750 from LAS. Why didn't we take the low bid? I'm sure there's a good explanation, but if you can explain that to myself and my colleagues, I'd appreciate it.
If my colleague would allow me to interrupt for a second, just had a question for the city attorney. I have recused myself on the vote. Do I need to recuse myself from the dais? I will. Thank you very much. I'm sorry to interrupt.
Mr. Mayor, council members, typically we get these proposals and staff will review them for quality of what the consultant is offering. We don't look at the numbers till we have ranked the proposals that we've received. After we rank the proposals based on the quality, then we'll open up the prices and take a look at them. We are not supposed to consider the numbers that are proposed. Again, we look at the quality of the proposal itself, the consultant's approach, and in this case, three staff members that evaluated the proposals, all three of us were pretty, we had consensus that Kimberly Horn had the best overall proposal, and based on that, we're making this recommendation this evening.
Okay, and you do have all the RFP questions answered and things like that in terms of litigation and things like that?
Correct, yes.
Okay, great. Thank you. With that, I'll make the motion.
Would you like to make the motion
To move item 10. Yeah.
Any second?
Second.
Go for it.
Just excited the seniors will be getting a parking lot.
All right. Second by Councilwoman Genoway, and all in favor say aye.
Aye.
The motion is carried 4-1 with Councilman John Mark Jennings recusing himself because of the potential conflict of interest, because of potential proximity to exceed the linear footage from his residential unit. Thank you. All right, with that, I think we are done with all the consent calendar items. Okay. Our first business item is City Council item number 1, and that is designation of voting delegate and alternates for the 2017 League of California Cities Annual Conference. On this one, I presume that Would you like to take the floor, Madam Clerk?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. As you know, every year the League of California Cities has their annual conference, and during that conference they have their business meeting, which is where votes are taken on resolutions that they are considering. This year the meeting is on Friday, September 15th at the General Assembly, and as in your position, we recommended that you attend as the voting delegate. And then the other two council members that are attending are Lori Davies and John Mark Jennings. And if you would like to consider either of them or amongst yourselves to be the alternate voting delegates for that meeting.
Raise up to my colleagues. Any preferences?
Madam City Clerk, the recommendation is to appoint 2 alternates. So
Yes.
both Councilmember Davies and Jennings can be appointed as the alternates.
Yes.
There you go.
Happy to help.
By
So-
default. All
May I
right.
make a motion?
Please.
I move that we appoint Mayor Minigar as the voting delegate and council members Davies and Jennings as the alternate voting delegates for the 2017 League of California Cities Annual Business Meeting on September 15th.
Very good. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The motion is approved unanimously. Our next business item was requested to be placed on this agenda by Council Member Jerry Schlusowitz as mayor then, and that is the request for an additional agreed upon procedures engagement related to purchasing. And Councilmember Schlusowitz, will you be presenting this item this evening, or?
Mr. Erlinson, are you okay with that?
Or you would prefer the interim city manager to talk about it?
You know, if you'd like to present it,
Okay, I'll be brief. First, I want to acknowledge that my approach to discussing this item could be refined and apologize to my colleagues for my zeal for drilling down on numbers that I'm sure at times is overbearing. While you may not particularly like me, I also know you love the taxpayers that elected each one of us. The city's press release from Friday, August 11th notes that while there were no findings of illegal or malicious intent, city purchasing could be improved by, quote, stronger monitoring practices, improved automated systems, additional approval procedures, and continued employee training and education, unquote. What we know is that due to a lack of proper protocols on the West Coast Arborist contract alone, the city spent significantly more than what was contracted. We have new software, but it won't be implemented until the middle of next year. And even the best software is only as good as the input received from staff and staff following the outputs directives. Expanding the audit will ensure we have appropriate taxpayer safeguards in place, that West Coast Arborist is just a one-off, as been suggested by staff. Ultimately, this agenda item is a win-win. If you vote for the agenda item and the audit finds problems, it's a win for the taxpayer. If you vote for the expanded audit and there are no findings, it's a win for you because you could tell the voters, we weren't certain, so we took appropriate steps and there were no problems. And oh, by the way, you get to say Jerry was wrong. Ultimately, we're going to be accountable for not just what we do, but what we fail to do. We can either hope blindly that the West Coast Arborist contract was a one-off, or we can roll up our sleeves, look under the hood, and make sure. I suggest that whatever you think of me, the taxpayers of this city deserve us to do the latter. So with that, I'd like to move the item with its contingents A, B, and C.
Any other discussions? Councilwoman Genoway?
I agree with Councilman Schlusowitz that we do need to have an audit, and we do need to look at what our processes are, what are our procedures, and what has led up to all that has happened in the last couple of months or weeks. But I'm looking at a different approach, and I think more, rather than a financial audit, we need more an operational audit. What are our policies and procedures, and how are things being done? It's become apparent that we have a couple of groups of employees in our city, and they're both doing a great job, but we have longer-standing employees and newer employees, and some of the procedures may differ between them. And I'm thinking some of the things that might be falling through the cracks could be identified through an operational audit. It's much more important that we look ahead and how are we doing things and how are they going to be done in the future. And as far as concern for the taxpayer, an operational audit would cost about half as much as a financial audit that's looking back to what we have already done. I think we need to look forward and make sure that the processes we put in place and how we're doing things are the best practices. And so I am in complete agreement that we do need to have an audit. But I think rather than looking back at the financial audit, an operational audit to the processes would be much more beneficial to our staff, to our cities, and to our taxpayers.
Very good, thank you. Councilwoman Lori Davies?
Thank you. Actually, I'd like to ask Interim City Manager Erlinson as well. What are your thoughts on this?
I actually do agree with an operational audit for a myriad of reasons. One of which is, from time to time, whether issues have been identified or not, you want to have a third party come in and evaluate your processes, whether it's related to purchasing or cash receipting or any number of other activities. Because over time, technology changes, your operation may become stale. Best management practices may change. And an operational audit, from a third party will help identify, efficiency gains. Where can we improve to tighten up controls? Where can we become more efficient? What's happening in one department and not another, and why? I think those are all valid questions that should be addressed. And, as a former auditor, I believe that's the best approach. How do we make ourselves better? Over the next 9 to 12 months, we're going to be implementing a new software system. But in that period of time, we're still going to be using our, current antiquated system. And as such, what do we do now? And staff is making refinements now. We're looking at, our processes, but I still think it would behoove us to, in the 9 to 12 months that we have until our new software becomes operational, what can we do to ensure that we, as city staff, what are we doing to enhance purchasing and protect the taxpayer dollar? I agree with what Councilmember Slusewitz is saying. I understand his logic there. I do agree with that. And that's pretty much the extent of my comments. Looking forward and making things better, and then when the new software system comes into play, maybe have it done again.
In regards to doing an operational audit, how much time do you think that would take?
It's hard to say, but it could probably range anywhere between, it's just a guess, it could take anywhere between probably 30 to 40, 50 hours, depending on the scope of the work.
And when you say 30, 40, are we looking at like a week's time, or is it something that's spread out?
Most of it would probably include field work. Some of that would include report preparation, but the majority of it would include planning and field work. And it would be done most likely, in a condensed period of time, similar to our year-end financial audit.
Okay, and then I'd like to get your opinion in regards to the ad hoc committee.
Well, with an ad hoc committee, as the way Councilmember Slusewitz has presented this, the ad hoc committee would serve to develop procedures with himself as a member, a second member of the city council, the city attorney, myself, and interim assistant city manager Bell. A scope of work procedures that we could bring back to the city council and have the city council review and ultimately authorize staff to release an RFP. If we go with an operational audit, I don't think an ad hoc committee would be necessary, because staff could pull scopes of work and procedures from operational audits that have related to purchasing that have occurred in other agencies, bring that back to the council body as a whole, and have the council decide what they like, what they don't like, amend that, and then authorize staff with the amended procedures, whatever those may be, to issue the RFP, solicit proposals, and then come back and award the most qualified provider to perform those services.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Councilman John Mark Jennings.
Great, thank you very much. I had discussions with Mr. Erlinson offline about this item, and I think that it's a great time actually to take on an internal comprehensive review of all of our departments to find out exactly how they work, how they're operating, how financially speaking their budgets are handled. I understand that the purchasing for each of those budgets is unique to each department. And I think understanding that from a comprehensive level is not only very important, it should be done always, but certainly as we're about to implement a new software system, I think we need to understand that better, because the garbage in, garbage out situation really indicates that we need to get our hands around that before we go live on that. I also think it's a fairly good timing, because we are in the process, as you all know, of searching for a city manager. And in doing so, this is a good time to get that financial house in order, to make sure it's a stable place, so that when we come in, whoever that person is will have the ability to rely on information. We'll have the benefit of that having recently been performed, so everybody would be very on top of the information that comes. And I'm intrigued by this, and I think it's an interesting concept, and I do like it, so I support that idea. I am concerned. I think that an outside audit, while they obviously have many values, they also have many costs. I'm not necessarily prepared yet to spend those monies. I'd like to get our hands around what we're doing first. If that triggers anything, then I'll definitely be interested in talking about that further. And I think there's plenty of time for that. Those numbers aren't going anywhere, so we can look in the future in the event that it becomes necessary. And with that, I release the floor. Thank you.
And Councilman John Mark Jennings, I'm keeping a tally on this. What about ad hoc committee composition?
Well, if I understand correctly, the ad hoc committee is only if we go with an outside audit. If we went with an outside audit, I guess an ad hoc committee to oversee it could be fine. I don't know why that can't be part of the full council. I don't know that it's going to be so difficult to do that we couldn't bring a report back and have recommendations on what those are to the full council. I think more people operating in this world of late would be a good idea. And I'd be more in favor of not establishing that and let the full city council deal with it. But having said that, if we do an operational audit, I concur with Mr. Erlinson that we don't need an ad hoc committee. We just need the full council to receive that report.
Very good. Back to Councilmember Jerry Schlusselberg.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Erlinson, when we first talked about this, which was a few weeks ago, I think, we were talking about kind of doing both, right? We were looking at a financial audit, and you had said, hey, maybe we should do some procedural things. It got side-railed in some of my conversations, but when I was doing this, I still think that having a financial component is huge, given the $410,000 of unlawful spending that we had to West Coast Arborists. So whatever the cost is, I think that should be, looked at. Can we combine these into one, do some procedure, which is a discussion you and I had at length a couple of weeks ago?
It's probably something that if we were to do both, I would recommend having two separate engagements, so two separate RFPs. One to look, forward, one to look backward, and I think that putting both out to bid separately is the most financially prudent thing to do. But, we could certainly do both. The recommendation as it's presented here, to look back at additional vendors, whatever those may be, whatever that scope may be, that's always a possibility. That's similar to the AUP that the public will, and the city council will be receiving on September 5th from our independent accounting firm, the Poon Group. But an operational audit, I would strongly encourage, at a minimum, just because that's the prudent thing to do. And it's just good management practice.
Yeah, so the item that I have on here is one, and what you're saying is out of this discussion, we can have a second item for the procedural audit. And as you know, as that's coming forth in the September 5th meeting, the Poon Group, when they did find some of their shortfalls in our protocol, you concurred with several of their findings, correct? It wasn't just West Coast Arborists that it said staff concurs with the findings, that there were internal financial issues looking back, and that there's a multiple of them. It's not just the West Coast. While they might not be the same magnitude of $410,000, but there were others, correct?
Yeah, there were additional, what the auditors in the auditing world term findings in an AUP are not what you would consider findings in a normal financial audit. I want to make that clear. Their findings were based upon the procedures that were laid out. Recommendations. That's, in most cases, recommendations. That's what I would say. And yes, management did concur with many of those, if not all of them.
Right.
So
And they had to
that's
do with
true.
the money, right? Money was spent, wasn't exactly following
they
procedures.
did not report on, they did not have a report on illegal activity whatsoever.
No, of
They
course
did not
not. I'm
report
not
on
saying
that.
it was illegal. But, there was, obviously, the $410,000 is unlawful because it's against our
Yeah,
municipal
well, there was a
code.
financial component and a reporting component.
Yeah, but on some of the numbers that they had, when we all have seen it, I know everyone's had it, so no one can say we haven't seen it, don't understand it. We've all seen it, and you did concur with some of their findings that had to do with some of these internal controls for our purchasing, which deals with taxpayer money, which is hence why we have more. It's not a one-off. It says we concur with the findings, right in the management part of it all. Whether or not it's illegal and how much, that's what I'm suggesting is we look back and we see what's going on with taxpayer money. We owe it to the taxpayer. If it comes back, even though out of a 21 vendor audit, out of 670 vendors, we had many things that we concur with that were not acceptable or whatever. They found errors. One of them found 410,000. Some of the other ones, the numbers are smaller. But like if you have a cap of 25,000, the number over that's not going to be that much. It might be 3,000 or 4,000. But that is, again, over the municipal code. So I'm just suggesting one more time that if you guys want to add a second procedural audit, I would be all in favor for it. But I really do believe that the audit is a win-win situation. Our taxpayers deserve to know what went on with the money recently, and I think we as a council owe it to our taxpayers to find out ourselves, because, 410,000 of unauthorized transactions, that's a big number. We had a whole year, 2015-16, that no one knew that we were $160,000 of that over. We need to know. Thank you so much.
If I may make a recommendation.
Please.
The auditors have not had an opportunity to present their report to the city council. Like I said, at a minimum, I think we should have an operational audit. That's just best management practices, as I've already stated. I'm not going
Go
to
ahead,
go over that
Omid.
any further. As far as expanding the scope of the AUP, I think it would be prudent to let the auditors explain what the nature of an AUP is, what they actually did, what findings, quote unquote, are, and then from there, make a decision whether or not you believe that further test work should be done. That would be my recommendation.
Very good, Steve, because you were ahead of me because I haven't made my comments on this. I happen to be a part of the auditing committee with Council Member Jerry Schlusewith, and I have the details of all those reports one by one for the record. So the bottom line happens to be two things. Number one, transparency in the government, and number two, we have fiduciary responsibility to all the taxpayers of this beautiful, great city. At the end of the day, we all want to make sure that there is no ambiguity with regard to how the taxpayers' money are being spent. Having said that, because I went through the whole process with Council Member Schlusewith at the time I said it is premature to make any definite conclusion. I wanted to make sure that we received the final report. I wanted to make sure that in a public forum, such as the City Council, the auditors, the partner, the project manager would show up on September the 5th, which I invite every citizen, every concerned citizen of this beautiful city to join us. We're gonna have frank discussions. We're gonna review their final reports, and Councilmember Jerry Schlusewith, you, like all of us, would have the opportunity to echo your concerns, but by doing so, by combining that, by postponing, not making an action on this one, once we review what they've done, we learn from mistakes. Nobody's perfect except God. So at the end of the day, I'm pretty sure that there are some deficiencies in the system, and I'm cognizant of those because we've discussed those, so that we rectify as a municipal corporation and we can move forward. I don't want to be dwelling too much, that's my personal mission, on the past. We want to move forward and we want to rectify, correct any problems that we've had. I understand the system that we discussed this afternoon when we had our conference, that the system is not perfect. It's understandable. It's old. Every department you explained to me has its own, which is, excuse me, from Stone Ages. But we need to correct all those, and we need to come up with the best computer software, but it's going to take 9 to 12 months from now. So, but the bottom line is due to the urgency of the issue that my esteemed colleague is raising, and for the sake of all the concerned citizens in our beautiful city, I would prefer, with the permission of my colleagues, to postpone this item, and then we discuss it on the September the 5th, or actually, it may be after we have the opportunity to review. So I think would be maybe 2 meetings or 1 meeting after September the 5th. So if I have
no objections.
Very good.
I'd also propose a substitute motion, and rather than doing what is proposed on this agenda item, that we actually convene an operational audit and begin that process, because there isn't anything holding us up from doing that. And to the extent that there's a need for haste, which I'm not sure is exactly accurate, but I'm interested in having it done. So I'd make a substitute motion that we do approve an operational audit. I don't know what the financial component of that is, and I'll defer to the city attorney and interim city manager if we need to bring this back to an additional city council meeting to determine whether or not we have to separately approve an item for the financial component.
Yeah, so once, if the council does decide to do or have an operational audit performed, a scope of work will be brought back for the council's review. And once that is amended, which I would, assume that there would be amendments to that, and the RFP is issued and the proposals come back, based upon the most qualified firm, and the council approves that firm, we would need to adjust the budget at that point in time. So a professional services agreement would come back along with a budget adjustment to amend the budget to cover the cost.
In that case, I guess my substitute motion then would be to to authorize the staff to prepare that scope of work and bring it back to us at the next available meeting, which I guess would be 2 weeks out if that's possible to do.
We'll aim for September 5th.
September 5th, that's not more than 2 weeks, but.
More than 2 weeks.
Yeah, our next regular meeting, so. Anyway, that's my motion.
Second.
Do we have any amendment on that amended motion?
No, I just wanted to back my colleague on that. Like I said, I think this operational audit is very important. We want to make sure if anything goes forward that we're not missing anything, errors are being caught ahead of time. We need to go forward. Obviously, the other audit we can look at. I appreciate you bringing that up. I think it's a good idea to move it until we do have a complete AUP report. And then we can also discuss whether or not we think we really need an ad hoc committee or if this is something we should leave open for the entire council to be able to be part of. I think, it's important that all our opinions are in there, and I think it's a good idea, so I would definitely support that.
And just to be
Substitute
clear, my motion's a substitute motion, not
Correct.
an amended motion.
I beg your pardon.
Thanks,
Your
sir.
points are well
I
taken.
support your substitute motion.
Very good.
I got a question, comment on this whole deal. And again, I support the whole concept of this to bring it back in a couple of weeks or whenever you get to it in terms of doing an operational audit. I'm still on that side. If it's the financial side, I definitely want to be part of the ad hoc, but I'm still trying to figure out, having and gone through the AUP with Mr. Minigar this year, what we're actually trying to do, and I'm just kind of thinking out loud, is we're trying to have auditors come in and audit our staff, okay, and which is part of how the AUP was. It was a hidden audit that by the Poon Group, that the staff didn't know exactly what was going on. Now, obviously, they got to be participatory because it's their operations. But I think, and again, I'm looking for help from Mr. Erlinson and anybody on the council on this, I still think there might be a need for a ad hoc from 2 members of the city council, because the way it works is someone comes up with the scope of work, and maybe it's this year suggested by, Mr. Erlinson and Ms. Bell, but the audit's supposed to be a surprise. I mean, they're not supposed to know what's going on in terms of what they do with the scope of work, so we can check it. And then, so a couple council members being on there that they can coordinate with, for the findings, and then they go back, the way it works, they go back to management, and management gives their recommendation of the findings after the council interacts with that. And then it gets presented to the body. So don't you think that we should still keep an ad hoc committee on this? Mr. Erlinson, what's your best thought on that?
As it pertains to the operational audit, I don't believe so. Operational audits are pretty standard. You can always have them tailored to whatever you're looking for, but they're pretty much cut and dry. And, believe me, firms will always look for ways to, have you improve your processes. I mean, they always find us something. They always will, because you can always make things better. It's continuous improvement. You can always make things better. And that's what we want to do. I don't think an ad hoc committee is necessary for this type of an audit. If the council were to decide to expand the scope of the AUP, then that's up to the city council. I would think that the entire council body, though, would need to be involved, at least based upon my conversations with the Poon Group. That was their suggestion to me. So whether an ad hoc committee would be formed and then the results brought back to the greater body, that's up to the city council. But for an operational audit, I don't believe you would need an ad hoc committee for something like this.
Yeah, I have a thought on that. I think it ought to come to the full city council, and there isn't things stopping us from deciding that as a group. And secondly, I don't believe the procedures that are in place for the AUP are at all clear. One of the things that when the dust settles on our events of late is that I absolutely intend to bring an item to clarify with great specificity exactly what's supposed to happen in that AUP process, who touches it, what they do, when they stay out of it, and all the other things that happen. While I think that the municipal code speaks in the absence that there's very little to be done by the ad hoc, it's not even an ad hoc committee, it's a selection of the mayor and the mayor pro tem in that process, that to the extent that we ever do another ad hoc committee in anything relating to finances, we need to dig in deep at that moment and be very clear about what those procedures are supposed to be. Because I think we all know from recent experiences that we can all agree that at best it's not clear. And so with my substitute motion does not include the formation of any ad hoc committees, and it doesn't include anything other than that full report coming back to the full body.
Any other comments? Then do we have a motion for?
That was the motion. I understood that Councilwoman Davies seconded.
Okay, very good. All in favor?
Aye.
The motion is approved unanimously.
And again, to clarify, that item that we just was tabled till.
Correct.
And that's, I don't know if that was part of
Correct.
the motion, but I just
To
don't want that to get
September the
lost.
5th, right.
Okay,
Right.
thank you.
Okay, Mayor Minigar, may I make a comment?
Please.
Since we're talking about purchasing, when we have reviewed the report that we've gotten back from Poon, and I know they'll be coming here on September 5th, one thing that I was concerned about was the delegation of the purchasing manager's authority. And I just want to share with our residents, and hopefully to offer you some reassurance. I did discuss this, and probably some of my colleagues have too, with interim city manager Erlinson. And it's regarding the delegation of the city manager's purchasing authority of $25,000. And in the past, that had been delegated to another member of the staff. But he has assured me that while he is the interim city manager, that authority will not be delegated to anyone unless he is on vacation, and that would go to the interim assistant city manager. So can you please confirm that?
That is correct. I'm functioning as the purchasing officer. I have not delegated that authority. I am beginning a vacation tomorrow, and I have named Debbie Bell as acting city manager. So she will have the delegation of that purchasing officer authority for the next week and a half. I'm back in the office on August 28th. As soon as I step foot in the door, I'm taking back that purchasing officer authority.
Okay, thank you.
I had one clarification, Mr. Mayor, if I could. My substitute motion took the place of that agenda item. And to the extent that we are bringing it back, that would require something else, because we just voted on something that took the place of the agenda item, so.
Then we can withdraw it.
We can make a motion, can't we, to
Or-
move it to, I believe we said it wasn't going to be September 5th, it would be the next meeting after the AUP report, so that would be the 19th. To make a motion to move your item to September 19th?
Yeah, do I have to do that, Mr. Dixon? I think she's looking for direction.
Yeah, I just didn't want my substitute motion to mess up what it was that you all were talking about, so.
Very good. Any
Because
objections?
it would have.
Okay, so, yeah, thank you, Ms. Davies.
absolutely.
So again, I guess what we had decided to do was to table this item, which was item number 2, for the request for additional agreed-upon procedures engagement related to purchasing, to the September 19th meeting, which would be after the Poon Group presentation. Thank you.
Very good.
Does someone second it?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, guys.
The motion is carried unanimously. Our next business item is city manager item number 1, and that is the status of the independent accountant's report on agreed upon procedures, or AKA AUP, applied to purchase orders and contract processes. Interim city manager Erlinson, please provide a staff report.
Thank you. During the city council meeting on August 1st of 2017, city staff stated they would provide a status update on the independent accountant's report on agreed upon procedures, or what we've been calling an AUP, applied to purchase orders and contract processes prepared by the Poon Group, the city's independent accounting firm. So since August 1st, management has received a draft of the AUP from the Poon Group, which we received on August 2nd. The interim city manager, director of finance, myself, provided the draft report through email to the 5 members of the city council. On August 3rd of 2017, the Poon Group provided 2 representation letters for signatures. One letter for the interim city manager and interim assistant city manager to sign to approve the AUP report, and one for the mayor and mayor pro tem to provide their signatures indicating their approvals of the AUP report. On August 4th of 2017, the interim city manager and interim assistant city manager, that would be myself and Debbie Bell, provided the signed representation letter by email to the Poon Group. The mayor, at the time, Councilmember Slusowicz, requested a clarification in the wording to the AUP on August 9th of 2017, just some dollar amounts to break out to make the wording more clear, in which the Poon Group provided a revised draft to myself for distribution to the City Council. The revised draft was emailed to the City Council on August 10th, 2017 for their review. On August 11th of 2017, the Poon Group received the signed representation letter from the mayor and the mayor pro tem at that time, and provided the final AUP report. That final report was subsequently distributed to the City Council. This AUP report will be included in the agenda for the September 5th, 2017 City Council meeting, in which Kenneth Poon, managing partner, and Francis Quo, our engagement partner, will be here to discuss the report and answer any questions that you may have. So staff's recommendation is that the City Council receive and file this update on the independent accountant's report on agreed upon procedures applied to purchase orders and contract processes. And that's the conclusion of my report. Thank you.
Thank you for your presentation. I start from my right. Councilmember Jerry Slusowicz, any comments on this item?
Sure, I agree with everything, but I just want to be real clear that when the mayor or I requested clarification of the wording AUP, it was because the staff management response to it changed the way it looked. We spent a certain amount of money, $54,000 with a company, publishing company, and which was over the city manager's limit of $25,000. And so in the response, you changed it to show that some of the $54,000, even though it came from the city with one vendor, you decided you want to break that up into 2 departments. And so you broke it up into Parks and Rec and to Police Services. And once that was done, I had asked that we just take that $54,000 and divide it into Parks and Rec and Police Services. So when he says that I had requested clarification of the wording, I think staff had changed the wording, and then, you know, I just allowed the numbers to flow equally to where they were.
Well, just to clarify, staff didn't change any of the wording to the report that the Poon Group
To your
prepared.
response.
Because it's a PDF file, we can't change the wording. We wouldn't ask them to. Management's response was what it was to the finding, and that, and
Yeah, I misspoke.
Yeah,
You're
no.
correct.
All right, I just wanted to make
Yeah.
that clear.
But it was based on taking a number of overspending of $25,000 to $54,000 to one vendor and saying, let's break this up into 2 departments. And so with that, I said, well, can we take the $54,000 to accurately reflect the 2 departments? So I just want to make sure that, you know, because there's been some talk about, you know, interfering with the auditors, and there was no interference either by having the numbers more accurately reflect management's response. Thank you.
Any other comments?
Yeah, just one. I think that's an example of how the processes on the AUP are not clear, because I don't see a process where there's an ability for the rest of the council, let alone the mayor and the mayor pro tem, to participate in commenting, revising comments, or doing anything to a draft audit until that audit is presented to management. It then comes from management. It's put into final by the Poon Group. It's signed off by the people that need to sign off on it, and it comes back to us and or our investment banking audit committee to take a look at. And I don't find any of that authority anywhere for anybody to be commenting on anything, even if it is in the very best interest of the audit to participate at that early stage. And I would have preferred, because I don't know what happened to that. You're talking about something I haven't seen. I didn't see the red lines of that the changes were made until they were just explained a moment ago. And so that type of process is concerning to me. So I think we need to get to the bottom of that. I'm not condemning anything about it right now. I just use that as an example of how that process isn't clear, because our codes don't say anything about that. Our procedures don't say anything about that. In fact, they're specifically absent on those points. So that's my point, that we have to get to the bottom of how that's supposed to happen in the future.
Councilwoman Genoway?
I concur. Thank you, Councilman Jennings. You're exactly right. We need to have clearly defined procedure in that.
Very
Okay,
good.
no, I still have a comment. And again, I agree with Councilman Jennings that the procedures definitely need to be better spelled out. I mean, the audit, the AUP, many of these things are, our financial workings, definitely need to be cleaned up. I mean, there's no question about it. And we need to change our municipal code in some areas. I mean, there's just no doubt about it. But what I'm talking about is something that, Mr. Jennings, while you say you didn't know, you had every opportunity to know, because this was all post the draft audit being in every single one of our hands. So the changes that happened, you had a copy of the draft audit, and it was like some number that we got in, July or what have you, for some period of time. And then you had the management response, which we all received a copy of about a week or so. So when you say you don't know, you had every opportunity to know.
Well,
I'm
no,
speaking.
that's not true. If you're going to change something, we didn't even know what the red lines are. I'm not going to scrub a 20-page document to try to figure out which comma got moved. And I would like to point out that in the absence of a procedure, we should all err on the side of not exercising our authority to implement some procedure that isn't in the process. It doesn't say that we can do this. And if it doesn't say we can do it, we ought not be doing it. And that's my point. And we could revisit that and disagree over it, or probably not, for a long time. But my point is that going forward, that AUP will never happen until we fix the procedures. And we have to make sure that they're very, very specifically spelled out about who gets to touch what.
Do I still have the floor, Mr. Mayor?
Please, if
Thank
you have
you.
any.
No, I was not done. I still have the floor. I appreciate that. Thank you. Every single one of us, when we had that draft, just about a week ago, you sent it to us, a little over. We all had the ability to make any comments we wanted. This was definitely not something specific to the mayor or the mayor pro tem. I don't believe, because we all had that draft audit as of around July 12th or 16th or whatever the date was. And we all had the ability to make comments on it at that point in time. So when I got the management response and I read it, just as all of us had the ability to talk to Mr. Erlinson or talk to the Poon Group or whoever, because it was not privy to just the mayor pro tem. But I do agree with you. There's no question the AUP needs to be changed, but I could list a number of things that need to be changed in our municipal code. So the point is we all had the chance to make this observation that I made, which all it was an observation, and adding some clarity. So I don't want to be impugned by anybody on this dais, because I'm looking out for the taxpayer.
Yeah, and I don't want to be impugned for not looking out for the taxpayer. So I think my point is that I don't think we are management. They are management. They give the responses to the audit report, and then they report it to us, and we comment on it. So if I get an unfinished audit report that doesn't have that management comments are either not done or they're in draft process, it's not the time to chime in. They have to finish it, and then we get it.
Well, my dear colleagues, all of your points are well taken. At this juncture, I don't want to be dwelling too much on the past. We're going to be rectifying the system, the procedures, the protocols. On September the 5th, we're going to have the gurus of the auditing industry to present to us. We can bombard them with any questions that all of us may have. We get clarifications, we get responses, amplifications, and then we would be moving forward with that, so there's no ambiguity in the process, that we don't have to be discussing, my dear friend, what happened in the past. I agree with you. I'd like to move forward. I mean, from now on, honestly, I don't want to be dwelling much on the past. If something was wrong, we're going to point at who was responsible, who did what, and then we're going to rectify the process and we're going to move forward. I think it's beyond us. All of us care about taxpayers' money, without any doubt, we're not different than you, nor you're different than all of us. We want one thing, respect and dignity for this beautiful city, and we want to take it back so that everything is being done with utmost transparency and integrity in the system. And I go for that. So with that, I guess we've already discussed this item too much. Do I have a motion just to table that? Or it's just informational item? Even better. Okay, the next one is, our last business item is Public Works, item number 1, and that is update of speed limits for streets within Laguna Niguel. Public Works Director Abuzada, please provide us a staff report.
Sorry, Mr. Abizado, before you start, Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
I have run a tape on this one. Aliso Creek Road it couldn't be more than 15 feet from my back door, so I have to recuse myself on the advice of the City Council from considering Public Works item number 1, as much as I would like to participate.
Very good, but the good news is the speeds are going down.
The
so
speeds are going down.
More public safety in this great city.
So forgive me, I'm going to enjoy the back room for another
Please
few
do
minutes.
so. No more sandwiches.
Mr. Mayor, it's 500 feet, is that right, Mr. Dixon? Yeah, in the benefit of not having a measuring tape and guessing that I am actually really close on that, I'm going to recuse myself as well.
Very good.
Mr. Mayor, council members, while we still have a quorum, through engineering and traffic surveys, speed limits are updated once every 7 years on non-residential roadways. That means arterials and collectors. California's speed limit law is one of the few that allows us, the motorists, decide what's appropriate and reasonable by invocation of this 85th percentile rule. What it means is that speeds are based on reasonable driver behavior on roadways. If 85% of the drivers are traveling at a particular speed or below that, that's usually pegged as the prudent and reasonable speed on a roadway. And based on roadway conditions, the speed limits are set pretty close at the 85% limit. In June of this year, engineering and traffic surveys were conducted to update the speed limits on 46 street segments in the city. The results of the survey indicated that no changes have been proposed for 35 of the 46 segments. For the remaining 11 segments, we're proposing lowering the speed limits by about 5 miles per hour on Aliso Creek Road from Moulton Parkway to La Paz, going from 45 to 40 miles an hour. On Aliso Creek Road from La Paz to Alicia Parkway, going from 50 to 45. On Avila Road from Moulton to La Paz, speed limit would drop from 40 to 35 miles an hour. On Bear Brand Road, between Camino del Avion and the Gate, speed limit would change from 35 to 30. On Camino Capistrano, from the northerly city limit to Paseo de Pinos, the speed limit would drop from 40 to 35 miles an hour. For segments 6 and 7, on Camino del Avion from East City Limit to Bear Brand Road, the speed limit would drop from 45 to 40 miles an hour. On Chaparosa, essentially the entire segment would go from 35 to 30 miles an hour. On La Paz Road, from North City Limit to Avila, the speed limit would change from 45 to 40 miles an hour. On Ocean Way, from Pacific Island to Cannes, the speed limit would change from 30 to 25 miles an hour. And finally, on Old Ranch Road, from Golden Lantern to the Gate, speed limit would drop from 35 to 30 miles an hour. In July of this year, the Traffic Commission reviewed the proposed reduction in speeds, and they made a recommendation for the City Council to adopt an ordinance and establish the new speed limits. This evening, staff recommends for the City Council to introduce and read the title to the proposed ordinance number 2017-XXX, waive the reading of the full text, consider the proposed ordinance and make any desired changes to it, and direct the staff to return with the proposed changes on September 5th, 2017 for the second reading and adoption of the ordinance. The recommended changes are in your red folder as well. It's slightly different than the original staff report. With that, I'll be happy to respond to any questions you may have.
Any comments from my colleagues? Councilwoman Davies?
Thank you, and thank you for the report. I share co-chair with Mayor Minigar on traffic and transportation, and I'm glad to see these studies. Over the last couple of years, we've definitely had people coming forth with the concern of the speed of cars traveling, and as we know, especially now, using the phone and texting and things like that, accidents are happening. So I'm glad to see that the reporting, again, really important is when they make these decisions, it's not something to just say, let's drop it by 5 miles. It's actually a study they have to do, and they have to follow a system. So they have to hit a certain number in order to either raise them or drop them. So obviously the numbers showed, and I think you're going to have a lot of happy residents, especially those that are living on the street. And again, this is all about safety. So thank you for the report. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councilwoman Genoway?
Okay, thank you for the report. I think our residents will be very pleased to know there's some slowing down going on in our city, because I know that's a comment we hear from a lot of residents, is the speeding traffic. Question I have, though, when the speed limit was changed on Alicia near Niguel Road, the signs were different. And I received a lot of comments on that. They were much more noticeable, and people liked them because they had the yellow background and then the white speed, miles per hour in it. Will the new signage be like that, do you know, or?
It depends on the location. The new signs that were posted on Alicia Parkway, those came at the recommendation of the Traffic Commission. I would recommend that we go ahead and make the changes on these roadways, and then we can take a look at how the public is behaving on those roadways, and we can always enhance it by additional warning signs.
Okay. Okay, but we did receive a lot of positive comment because of the noticeability of them. So thank you.
I just have two quick technical questions that I think I conveyed that to our city clerk this afternoon when we had our conference meeting. The dates that the data was collected, i.e. the average daily traffic and the radar surveys, I want to make sure that, because I go to courts a lot on the positive side, that they were conducted before the school closures, because it would impact, a lot of traffic specifically and explicitly in those segments of the roadways that we have middle or elementary schools, and obviously people that would go to Dana Hills, in Dana Point, or Aliso Niguel in Aliso Viejo. When the traffic volumes would be lower, as you know, when you do the calculation, or when the consultant was doing it, then the numbers would not be the way, because one of my biggest surprises was, as an observation, as a practitioner, was that I saw 11 of them going down, which is great for our city. Unlike a lot of other cities, that it's the opposite. The trend has been they are changing their existing posted speed limit signs for higher speeds that no citizen, no resident, no parents would like to see that, because you always want to see downward with regard to speed limits. Plus, our police department can enforce more, because we can, I hate to say, generate a little bit of revenue, but that's besides the point. So with all that said, so they were done before.
Yes, the consultant was cognizant of all those facts. And by the way, I think most of the credit does go to the police department. They have been out there and enforcing speed limits around town. And I believe that's been the main reason why we see reduction in some speeds.
And then when someone would be asking or requesting for these technical/legal reports, because it's going to go to the court that has jurisdiction over our city, I just want to make sure, because I go to a lot of other cities, when I go to court, they are not done properly. I just want to make sure that the name of who did it happened to be a registered engineer, because I didn't see those on any of these, nor on my Traffic and Transportation Commission meeting that I was in China. I didn't see that. I want to make sure when you submit it to the court that has jurisdiction,
yes, we
all
do.
Those are signed with wet signature after it goes through our second reading.
Okay, we'll make sure we have those, and those are available to the public if anybody asks for a copy.
Very good. At city clerk's
To the
office,
clerk's
or your
office, we'll make those available to the city clerk's office.
Very good, thank you. Then, do I have a motion to approve as presented?
Excuse me, Mayor Minigar, the one thing that technically wasn't done, you need to read the full title of the ordinance.
Very good. It's the update of speed limits for streets within Laguna Niguel.
Yeah, Mayor.
And then, moving on to the resolution.
It's in your red folder.
Oh, here we go. Here we go. All right. Introduce and read the title of the proposed ordinance, which is ordinance number 2017-XXX, an ordinance of the City of Laguna Niguel of City Council of the City of Laguna Niguel, California, amending ordinance number 91-45 by revising the speed limit on 11 street segments within the city. That's item A, and item B is waive the reading. Mr. City Attorney, I have to read B, C, and D as well, or?
No, I mean, B is waive the reading, consider the
Which
ordinance,
one?
which you've done, direct the proposed ordinance with the changes that are enumerated in the recommended action, and then adopt that at the next meeting.
Very good.
Second.
So all in favor?
Aye.
So this item has passed 3-2. Two council members are recusing themselves from voting on this item. All right, now we have other businesses. Let's wait for council member Schlusser. Very good. Council reports. I start from my far left, Councilmember John Mark Jennings.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. It's been a very full week. I've had a lot to say, and I think tonight I'm just going to reiterate one point that I made last night, that whatever may have come in the past, I am wholeheartedly embracing your comments, Mayor, that we'll move forward, we'll work together. There's a lot of work to be done for this city. I am absolutely confident that everyone sitting on this dais is in favor of the taxpayers and getting to the bottom of making sure that their money is spent right. And we have a wonderful opportunity ahead of us to move on, and I'm very thankful to do that. And that's it. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, sir. Councilwoman Elaine Genoway.
Okay, well, you know, Laguna Niguel has amazing residents, and I've been contacted by so many people who've offered and affirmed their support for this city council. Today's a new chapter for our city, one of moving forward so that we can best serve our residents and not get mired in activities or time abusers that do not serve our taxpayers well. This will involve reviewing past activities so that future processes are best practices for our taxpayers and our employees. But it also involves moving forward. Just remember, our children are watching, our children are listening, our children are of all ages. They listen to what we say and how we behave. These children also include our graduates who may be going to their first job. If they see that we're dismissive of something, they will grow to be indifferent. If they see us act professionally, respectfully, and ethically, they will have the confidence to stand for what is right. If they see us choose to take an optimistic approach, there is no limit to what they can accomplish. When we were going over tonight's agenda, we discussed correcting Prop 57. Our city will be sending a letter to Sacramento. Again, our State Senator Pat Bates is one of the leaders on this, and she did send out an email this afternoon giving some more information. And anyone, and I've been sending it out too, it's all over the city. If you don't have any information on how to voice your opinion and get your voice heard in Sacramento, please let me know and I'll be happy to share that with you. But we have till the end of this month an open comment period for residents of the state of California to give their comments to the California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation. And all of this started out of our work on human trafficking, because human trafficking of a minor is considered nonviolent. So we are having another workshop for human trafficking. You may see these flyers around town on August 17th. It'll be in 2 days, on Thursday, right across the hall at 7 p.m. We're going to continue work on legislative advocacy and also talk about volunteer opportunities, and then have another town hall on September 21st. Had an excellent, excellent meeting this week with representatives from the Capistrano Unified School District. Thank you, Trustee McNicholas, for helping arrange that. I've invited them to participate in the town hall. They are excited to do so, to be talking about how our children are being educated on how to not become targets on social media. It's very important that our children learn from a very young age. So the school district will be participating in the town hall. I also attended the Tier 2 bridge dedication, as my council colleagues did. Thank you to Parks and Rec for always making a wonderful thing for Laguna Niguel to celebrate. And when you go to the bridge, I want you to realize that a lot of that money that was spent is underground for the water filtration. And if either Mr. Abazadi or Ms. Booty can talk for a minute about what is it that is under there that we've paid for and we receive grants for.
Yes, in terms of grants, I have the numbers. We did receive a grant from OCTA for $1.6 million, an IRWM grant from the state of California for $700,000, and from Molten Niguel Water District, we received $300,000. And that's, in building this bridge, we had to get into the what is known as the jurisdictional waters of the United States, and we had to disturb the vegetation and habitat. And as part of the project, we needed to reestablish the habitat, and most of this money that I mentioned, over $2.6 million that we received, was to revegetate the channel and establish habitat.
Okay, so thank you. So thank you to staff, because applying for those grants is a lot of work, but when we get them, that's an incredible benefit to our residents and our taxpayers. So that's $2.6 million that came back to our city. And just think, when you're driving over that bridge, you are driving over, how did you put it, the jurisdictional waters of the United States. It's a whole new perspective on it. And yesterday we received news that we did receive another grant from OCTA. So that was what, about $165,000? Yeah, $165,000. So again, great job in bringing money back to our city. The Laguna Niguel Military Support Committee is having their Fairways to Freedom golf tournament on October 16th. Councilwoman Davies and I co-chair that. We do have information if you'd like to participate either as a golfer, to sponsor a Marine sailor or Army soldier in playing golf, or have your business advertise. And we received very tragic news this week regarding our Military Support Committee. And if you notice on your agenda, tonight's meeting is being adjourned in memory of Lance Corporal Cody Haley, who's age 20, from Hardin, Iowa. On Friday, August 4th, they were having physical training. It was time to take a break, cool off, sit down, have a drink of water. He was sitting under a tree. A branch fell off of the tree that he was sitting under and severed his arm and unfortunately killed him. So the Military Support Committee will be assisting and paying for travel for his friends to accompany him back to his final resting place in Iowa. These are the unseen needs that our Military Support Committee supports. But please keep Lance Corporal Cody Haley, his family, and the 1st Battalion, 4th Marine Regiment in your prayers. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you for your comments. Councilwoman Lori Davies.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a couple comments. Liga City, we have a new executive director, Carolyn Coleman, and the League of Cities is stationed up in Sacramento. It's a lobbyist group that represents the cities of California in really strong regards to local control. So I was really happy to see her come down here because obviously the state differs in views. And so this is her third time already in less than about 9 months. We had a chance to meet with her, have lunch. She came to the meeting where we had our CEO from OCTA speak. So I think she was very impressed at the way Orange County, being a self-help county, handles their roads and their infrastructure. But I was really happy to listen to her because she is very strong in regards to local control and also having an understanding of Orange County and where our views and values are down here. I want to thank our staff for having your first community coffee. This was fantastic. You know, I went there on Thursday and I had the wrong time and wrong day, and the next day I got there and I was in the wrong place, but I did get over there eventually. I want to say it was a great job. Some of the people in the audience were there, and it was great to see them as well. I think it's important that you get out there. Staff, you know, sometimes you're back here and no one gets a chance. You actually have got a lot more to say because you really are the brains behind this. We get to vote on it, but you're the ones doing all the research and really have the information, so I appreciate that. And I want to thank Councilmember Slusowitz. He did a fantastic job at Meet the Mayor. A week or so ago, we opened up Cavora, which is a new complex, and I'm not going to say much because I'm going to let him do it, but you did a fantastic job. Thank you.
Councilmember Jerry Schlusowitz.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Councilmember Davies, for the kind words. Yeah, again, the Meet the Mayor is something that Councilmember Davies started when she was the mayor last year. It's a good opportunity for staff and leaders of the community to get together and see, you know, different areas of the city that are out there. One of the things I was trying to do with that one was, you know, expose people to the Gateway and what a nice development it is and some of the positive attributes of it. So again, that did happen, and I hope that that tradition continues that you started. I'm going to be brief. School started for some schools yesterday and for most by next week. So just make sure you drive safe. It's really important at the time of the year when there's a lot of extra kids on the road. It just changes from this summer kind of driving thing, and schools start earlier and earlier. So just be safe on the roads. With that, I'll yield my comments back.
Thank you, Councilmember Jerry Schlusowitz. Well, even though I repeated a few of these items last night, I just wanted to express that I'm extremely humbled and honored to serve the great city of Laguna Niguel as the new mayor effective now. Serving the office of mayor is the highest honor which can be bestowed upon any citizens of our great city. I have served our great city for over 21 years with honesty, integrity, and full transparency. As the new mayor of Laguna Niguel, my job is to uphold the honorable position with utmost care to make sure that we protect the Constitution of this great country, the laws of the great state of California, and last but certainly not least, to assure our taxpayers and residents that as long as I'm an elected official, a public servant leader in this great city, I will sustain the beautiful quality of life which we have enjoyed since the city's incorporation back in 1989. I will also commit, pledge, and assure our taxpayers, our taxpaying residents, the citizens, that everything to be done in accordance to the laws and the high standards of living that we've had, that we call it Laguna Niguel Way. I'm very excited to work very closely with the entire City Council and with the excellent staff that we have, basically just to move forward. My mission has been clear. We're going to move forward. I'm going to be doing everything I can within my power as one to ensure that we have utmost respect for everyone in this great city. And when it comes down to rectifying any procedures, any protocols, we are not going to be hesitating on doing so. God bless America and the beautiful and great city of Laguna Niguel. Thank you very much. Just two quick items on, as everybody knows by now, on July 26th through August the 5th, I was invited to be a part of U.S. diplomatic trade mission to the government of People's Republic of China. The trip was with zero cost to the taxpayers of this great city. I was accompanied by the state treasurer, by a few California State Assembly chairmen, and about half a dozen mayors from the state of California. We traveled through the entire country of China. It was very eye-opening. At the same juncture, we wanted to see basically what is going on in that country. It was my first trip to PRC, and as a part of the whole trip, I had the golden opportunity to talk to the deputy foreign minister, and ultimately they connected me specifically out of the entire delegation to talk to the mayor of a beautiful coastal city in southern China, not too far from Hong Kong, that we are going to be discussing MOUs, and with my colleague, Councilwoman Laurie Davis, who serves with me as a part of the ad hoc committee for sister cities, as soon as we receive the letter of interest from the government of China. The system of China is quite different. Everything has to go through, the local city to the province, then ultimately to Beijing, and the central committee, the central committee has to decide and vote on that. But I've been told, based on all the indications, that the central committee in Beijing of the government of China would not have any resistance or any issues with that after presenting them with the plaques, with the tiles of the beautiful city of Laguna Niguel. So we are going to be waiting for the outcome of those, and as soon as I receive it, we're going to be discussing it, and then ultimately it's going to be brought to the city council for our decision, because at this juncture we don't have any sister cities, for the record. And then on Thursday, August the 10th, I attended the monthly meetings of the Transportation Corridor Agency, the joint committee meetings in Irvine. As you know, the hottest issue happens to be extension of the 241 toll road in South Orange County. And every meeting that I've been attending lately is always jam-packed with a lot of people showing up. But based on the statistics that we get and the speakers that talk about the extension of the toll road, all the people that are resisting the extension happen to be over 90% from the city of San Clemente, and very few people from Ladero Ranch, which is within the unincorporated area of Orange County in 5th District, and 1 or 2 from the city of San Juan Capistrano. So that's the latest on the toll roads. With that, I don't have any other further comments, and I'm going to start with substituting for our police chief, Sergeant Sanger.
Good evening. I'm going to make a quick comment echoing what Councilmember Slusowitz said. School starts Tuesday, August 22nd. All the officers will be in or about the schools before school and at the end of the school day. So slow down, put cell phones down, and let's have a great school year with no accidents. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the great job that you're doing for our beautiful city. Interim Assistant City Manager, Debbie Bell. Interim City Manager, Steve Erlinson.
Yeah, just one quick comment, and I mentioned it a little earlier. I will be on vacation beginning tomorrow, August 16th, and coming back on Monday, August 28th. In my absence, Debbie Bell will serve as acting city manager, and Kristen Nguyen, my finance manager, will be serving as acting finance director in my capacity. So I will make sure we get their contact information out to you, and if you do need to reach me while I'm on vacation, I'm accessible.
Very good. Enjoy your vacation.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
We're not going to bother you. Our city attorney, Terry Dixon. Our Orange County Fire Authority's chief.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Nothing this evening except for congratulations.
Thank you, sir. Our community engagement manager, Kalina North.
This evening, thank you.
Mr. Mayor, council member, just one announcement. As you attended the dedication for the bridge, one of the last few things happening, next couple of days, we're going to have some work on Crown Valley at the park entrance. There's a water line that needs to be abandoned. It got pushed and pushed, but it has to be done. So there'll be some lane closures at the park. So hopefully the public will avoid that area. I'm working with Kalina to put out some tweet and inform the public, so we'll let them know, but I just want to announce that. And they'll be finalizing the painting on the bridge, so there'll be also some little bit of lane closure tomorrow on the bridge, but hopefully we're almost done. Thank you.
Very good, thank you. Madam City Clerk, Eileen Gomez.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I only had one thing that I wanted to announce, because serving on the as part of the Military Support Committee, I've been helping coordinate the car wash. It's going to be on August 26th at the La Paz Shopping Center. I know they would really appreciate the support to support our 3 adopted units. So come out and get your car washed. It starts at 10 o'clock, Saturday, August 26th at Plaza de La Paz. Thank you.
Thank you. Our Parks and Rec Director, Alison Giglio.
Thank you, Mayor. Our last concert of the series is this Friday, August 18th from 6:30 to 8:30. The Answer to Classic Rock, which is a popular band we've had for many years. Special bonus, we have 2 additional parking lots open now for everyone to park in, so we're excited about that. Rule the Pool is on Friday, August 25th from 8 to 10. That's $5 at Crown Valley Park Pool. And all of our fall activities are now advertised in our recreation brochure that was mailed a few weeks ago. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you very much for your report. Community Development Director, Leslie Roseberry. Public Works Director, Mr. Nasser Abuzali.
One item and good news for all the basketball players in town. As of yesterday, we've started resurfacing all the basketball courts in town, and we expect that to be finished next week. Look for them. They're already looking nice. Thank you. Thank you.
Very good, thank you. Well, at this juncture, I would like to close tonight's City Council meeting in memory of Lance Corporal Cody J. Haley, a motorman in the United States Marine Corps who lost his life in a tragic accident during physical training. On behalf of the Laguna Niguel City Council, we extend our deepest sympathy to his family, his fellow Marines, and our adopted Marine unit, the number 1 Battalion, 4th Marines Regiment. We are now adjourned at 9:09 p.m. Thank you and have a nice evening.